because the old policy was also there, and therefore it was also called the new education policy. So actually, we have to look into why this new education policy came into being. And the reason was that they had detected some deficiencies with the old existing policy, and they had detected that there were some issues with the old policy, and that's why, of course, they came up with the new policy. So what is this new education policy or national education policy? So it is called National Education Policy 2020, also known as New Education Policy. It was tasked to create a new system aligned towards future of education. So it was like it thought for the 21st century and beyond, they wanted to have a new system of education, which included all the things that had come up. One of them was, of course, Sustainable Development Goals. So there was the issue of sustainable development of education, which is the goal number 4. And so that was one. So sustainable means that, it keeps happening. And so the purpose of education is sustaining. So that was sustainable goal. And that was one. And there were other things that were also happening in especially international scenario. And that was the reason. And the third and important point was that I think if we have to define NEP in crux in one line, then it was to embrace new developments or new advances in education, but keeping in view our Bharatiya knowledge parampara. So taking good things from Bharatiya knowledge parampara and moving into future, adopting or embracing new educational philosophies. So that is I think the basic in one line, that is the National Education Policy 2020 or New Education Policy. So obviously it is the first education policy of 21st century. It aims to address the growing development imperatives in India. So what are the newer developments? Newer development is that our population is increasing and we have got something called as demographic advantage. And what is that demographic advantage? We have a good number of people between the productive age groups, between, let us say, 18 to 40 or 45. That number of population, we are now number 1 in the world. And this is the productive population. So this can do work and it can generate a lot of things. So we have this demographic advantage. And this policy is basically brought about to take advantage of this demographic advantage that we have so far and not let it go waste, because by 2040 or by 2047, we will be celebrating 100 years of independence, and by that time this demographic advantage would have been more or less blunted. So till 2047 we are going to have this demographic advantage, which means a young population which is productive population. So this new education policy proposed revision of all aspects of education structure, including regulation and governance. And it lay emphasis on development of creative potential of each individual. And the principle was that education must develop 2 or 3 things. Number 1, the basic cognitive capacities, which means everybody should be good in numbers. So that was like mathematics. So everybody should be good in numbers. Each citizen of India should have a basic understanding of numbers, and they should be able to count, multiply, subtract and all that. Plus they should have, each individual should have certain literacy or certain grasp on communication, how we communicate. Maybe they must know one regional language, or maybe they may even know English. But these 2 things, basic cognitive capacities, which are maths and language. So these 2 things every citizen of India should have. So that was one. Then some individuals, and the proportion we are discussing, what is the proportion? Some of these individuals should move into higher order cognitive capacity, which includes problem solving, critical thinking, and all those soft skills we discussed. So next, at least a good percentage should graduate to become bachelors, and so that they develop this higher order cognitive function. Then third thing was, all people should have social, ethical, and emotional capacities and dispositions. So these were basically, the principles or the aims of new education policy. These are the philosophical aims of the new education policy, that the population should have, number one, literacy and numeracy. So basically they should know numbers and they should be literate. Then they should very well adapted to social, ethical, and emotional capacity to integrate them with the rest of the society. And then some of them should go and develop these capacities, higher skills for higher education. So that was the basic idea. So to understand why this new educational policy was needed, we need to know what is the current status of education in India, how effective is the current educational system, what are the issues or what are the challenges in the current educational system, what improvements can be taken up in the Indian educational system, and then what are the solutions to make those improvements. So these are, I think, broad things, very easy, which we need to understand so far as NEP is concerned. Now let us look at Indian education system. Current means 2021, just at the time of finishing COVID. So at that time, the total number of institutions, universities were more than 1,113 exact. Colleges were nearly 45,000, 43,796, and other standalone institutions were 11,296. So basically about 12,000 or 11,000 of these institutions. So that is the number of institutions that were present. Interestingly, highest number of universities is present in Rajasthan, and that is 92 universities. So that is the interesting part, that Rajasthan is an educational hub. We may not know it, but it is an educational hub. Highest number of universities in the country, nearly 100. Then among the top districts also, you see that Jaipur stands number 2. Jaipur has 671 higher educational institutions. So this is also interesting. After Bangalore, Jaipur is the one which is, we can call it an educational city, so to say. Then the faculty, the total number of faculty or teachers, you can see, is more than 15 lakh teachers are present in India at this point of time. And now the ratio has improved, so female is more than 42 or is 43%. So it is nearly equaling the male ratio so far, and it is actually, as a matter of fact, steadily increasing. So female teachers are increasing, and percentage of male-female ratio in this is also equalizing, so far we know. Total number of students enrolled in higher educational apparatus are more than 4 crore, and this is 2021. They have increased now even more. But what I was talking about was the gross enrollment ratio, that is number of students that enroll for graduate and above, and we can see that it is now more than 1/4. So it was 27.3% in 2021, which was at least 1 out of 4 people who are in this age group who can get educated are getting the higher education. In some, what is recommended is about 50%. So 50% should be able to graduate and higher, but at the moment we are 27%. So at least more than half of what is recommended. Then out of these higher education people, UG are nearly 4 out of 5, and 1 out of 5 is PG. So the fair ratio, UG 4 out of 5 and PG 1 out of 5. Among the disciplines that are chosen And I don't know what others feel. Interestingly, highest enrollment is in arts. Nearly 1/3 enrolled are in arts. And then science is about 16%, commerce 14%, engineering about 12%. So this is the spread of disciplines in the UG courses. So most preferred courses still happen to be arts. About 1/3 of all UG students are following the arts stream. Coming to PG, the social science is about 21%, while science stream is followed by 15%. So 1 out of 6 people, PGs, are in the science stream. So this is what it is. And now at the moment, the availability of infrastructure in these institutions is libraries. 97% have libraries. And of course, we want it to be 100%, so all institutions. So which means that there are certain shared libraries also. So people are having this arrangement among themselves where they can share the certain infrastructures that are deficient in one institution. So some institutions come together and share. So libraries, 97%, laboratories, 88%, computer science centers, again, at least 9 out of 10 have computer science centers, and skill development centers, about 2/3 have skill development centers. So this is, the status right now. So I think it is important to understand where we stand now. Now the question is, we have some certain system, but is this system effective? So I think that is important, and we find that access to higher education is limited. We saw it as about 1/4. We wanted to increase it to 50%, half people. The other thing is that there is an inequity in education. So far, more boys are joining the system, but I think it is rapidly getting corrected, and after a few years, equal number of girls will be there, if not higher. So that is at least rapidly taken care of. But the weaker sections, they are going to improve, and especially educationally backward classes will require to be got in the system so that the system becomes effective. Then the other problem is that there are so many boards. We know there is a Rajasthan board, there is a CBSE, there is this and that in the school education. So that is creating a lot of problem, because these have different outcomes, and then they want different kind of reservations in the competitive exams as well. And so this is a problem, and this has to be sorted out. But the third important thing, and more important regarding our education system, is quality of education. And I think that is something which is a problem, because the focus is on memorization instead of, and I don't know if many of you might have looked at the Western education as well. Some of your children must be getting education in Western institutions, and you will realize that memorization is a very small part. Mostly they focus on understanding the thing and very little on memorizing. But in Indian context, all of us know that it is memorization and prioritized over everything else, and that is a big problem. Also, the emphasis is laid on learning or mastering traditional things rather than new vocational skills that are coming up and occupying the job market. So that is another big problem, that people are focusing on old things and not adapting to the new requirement or new job requirement. So as a result, the unemployment rate in India is about 8% and higher in urban centers compared to rural centers. And the more concerning thing is that about more than 7.5 lakh students are now moving out of India to get higher education because of the quality of education or because of availability of the education. So that is also shows us how effective our system is at the moment. So then what are the reasons for this problem? And you can see that expenditure on education is very low. Per capita expenditure on education, public funding is also low. which is going to increase. So that is the good point, but at the moment it is low. And if you look at the institutions, then expenditure upon the student per student is also very low, especially on some of the private institutions. Government institutions, they get funding from the government, and so that many places expenditure on a student is high in government institutions. If you take IITs or AIMS or other those kind of institutions, but if you move to some private institutions, then this expenditure on the student could be low, and some other state institutions also this expenditure is low. So this is one. The second thing is the capacity utilization is also not good. So you have a library, but if you look at how many people are accessing library, you will be very surprised, and you will find that people are not utilizing the capacity that is already existing. So you may have a skill lab, but how many people are using this skill lab? You may have a computer science lab, but how many people are using this CS lab? And so the facilities that are already available, even students are not utilizing those capacities. So that is another problem. Then of course, because of funding also, the infrastructure facilities are also deficient. Although at the moment the central universities have better infrastructure compared to other universities because of better funding, and also they invest in new kind of infrastructure facilities like digital or e-infrastructure also. But many state universities and some private universities are deficient in infrastructure facilities as well. Then financial model is a problem, because all the central universities and many state universities are dependent on government funds for the thing. If you look at West, even the best public sector university in the world is at the moment, there are some Ivy League which are private universities, but the public university, the best public university is considered to be UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. And you will be surprised to know that very little funding from the government, actually. They generate their own funds. So that kind of problem is existent in institutions in India, that they depend on government funds, they are unable to generate their own funds. So that is a big problem, because it will not be sustainable. So we talked of sustainable education, and if you get funding from some other place, it will not remain sustainable. To make it sustainable, the university should be able to generate its own fund. And as I said, UCLA or UC Berkeley, so they generate their own funds, although they are public universities. So I think that is another important point. So there are some solutions. You can have PPP model. Then the other issue is that the student-teacher ratio is quite poor in India, and it is teacher is to student ratio. What NIRF wants is at least 1:15, but what most Western universities have is 1:10. So for every 10 students, there should be one teacher. Now that is not happening in India, so NIRF has slightly diluted the thing, and they say, okay, initially they said 1:12, but now they are at 1:15 is also okay. But at least 1:15 ratio should be attained, and that is an issue in education as well. Then very few people go for accreditation or ranking and things like that, and nobody knows what is their status. So because they have never got any accreditation, they don't go for ranking. Many institutions in India, even public institutions, don't go for ranking, and so you might find a lot of universities, government universities, don't apply for ranking at all or accreditation as well. So that is another problem. And then finally, the problem I already discussed is that because the quality of education is not that good, people who have money or who can afford it actually move out. Also, in some areas, the access or availability of education is less. For example, in medical field, because there are, more people want this education and less facilities are available, at least in public institutions. So people move out, go to Ukraine, China and other places, and try to get this kind of education, which is a big problem for us because these people are not trained properly in that education and they come back and then it's a huge problem. So the two issues, one is of course issue of quality and the other issue is of the availability of those higher educational institutions. So these are, I think, some of the things that are the current issues. So what are the solutions? Of course, innovations are required. So if you do use digital education, then you can bring down the expenditure and you can improve the availability or access. So that is one solution if you go for digital education. Then also important thing, and we were discussing for last couple of days, that if you have an education focused on developing soft skills, because now what is happening in information technology, in next 2-3 years, the whole skill set is changing. And so either student comes back and acquires this skill set, or the student has soft skills so that they can adapt to the change and develop new skill sets on their own. Maybe they can visit some university and acquire new skill sets, but at least they should have this intention of acquiring, and this is going to happen in all the disciplines. That it will change so much and so rapidly because of information revolution, that whatever you are teaching now, and there is an estimate that whatever is taught when the child enters the curriculum, let us say 4-year course, at the beginning when he enters and by the time he passes out, and the skills they learn, 90% of the skills they cannot use. So only 10% is utilized, 90% new has already happened. So that is why it is important to develop soft skills. Now coming to quality of education, what can be done? Of course, multidisciplinary is a very good approach, because once people do different disciplines, they acquire new skills, they can also move back and forth from disciplines and they can take care of these things. Then a standard should be maintained in all higher educational institutions. So what is happening is a lot of disparity in the standard. So you can say NAC A++ is very high standard and NAC C will be very low standard. Likewise, NIRF rank 1 or 2 will be like Western University, but the rest will be so pitiable situation that they are not worth. So we have to basically across the board decrease this disparity in the quality of education. So that is another thing. Then between urban and rural, and there are some rural universities and they have this problem. And then between government and private universities, there are certain issues. So I think these challenges in quality of education need to be addressed. The third important problem, as I said, was affordable. At the moment, government, central government or state governments are supporting these government universities, but suppose this support goes away, will the education be affordable for the students? That is the big challenge, because whenever they move into private universities or institutions, then this education is no longer affordable. So I think these are some of the things that one has to sort out. So for this reason, and this reason alone, the new education policy was brought out, trying to solve some of these problems and trying to address these problems so that we get prepared for the future and we have a sustainable education. So whatever we do now sustains completely. For example, as I said, the central universities are no longer sustainable because the kind of budget they will be requiring year on year will be very difficult for any government to bail out. So that will be a problem. So anyway, coming to the highlights of this new education policy, why this came up was, first, what they have proposed is to blur the disciplinary boundaries. So difference between art and science and technology and medicine, law, etc. should be blurred. So focus on things which are common in all the disciplines and especially soft skills. So that is the whole idea of national education policy, and make it easy for people to switch from one discipline to other. Right now it is easy to switch from engineering into management, but other disciplines this switch is not happening. So that is one thing. The other thing is to reform the regulatory bodies. And I mean, of course, you are not exposed to it, but then there are so many regulatory bodies. There is NMC, UGC, AICTE, ZZZ, and so many things. And everybody has their own kind of, recommendations and guidelines and mandates. And I think Dr. Saxena will be, very much understand that, so everybody has their own thing. If you take IITs, they will have their own thing. If you take AICT, they will have their own thing. If you take UGC, they will have their own thing. If you take NMC, they have their own story. So that is creating a lot of confusion. So basically, they want to reform the regulatory body and make it one uniform body of higher educational institutions. So that could be a one body with slight differences among different disciplines, but that is one idea of new education policy. The third is that we discussed that suppose somebody goes for education and for some reason cannot pursue it for some time. So they completely lose the thing. So if you, like for example, fail in MBBS for 3 times, you are lost, you are gone, irrespective of whether you can afford it or not afford it. So the idea is to create those multiple entries and multiple exits. So if you feel that you are unable to pursue, you can exit, take your time, be prepared, come back and enter. So multiple exits, multiple entries. So that is another thing. And then improving access across different streams, also between knowledge and skill. So we have institutions which are knowledge-based institutions. For example, if you take IITs or IIMs, they are basically knowledge-based institutions. But we have certain institutions which are vocation-based institutions. So they are teaching vocational skills. So there is little coordination between the skill institution and the knowledge institution. And very difficult to jump from the skill institution into knowledge institution and from knowledge into skill institution. So that is one area that is identified. And the third area is, of course, as we discussed a couple of days back, experiential learning. So anybody who's working, let us say, as a mechanic in a car mechanic, or who's working in a shop in the selling clothes, or somebody who's cutting gems, so they are all getting some experience. So can we use this experience to determine the learning? And if we can basically, if this learning can be examined or evaluated, then they might even get credits for it. So that experiential learning also, people should be given that possibility that they might do 12th, then they might do gem cutting for 10 years. And then after 10 years, they do a bridge course and they go into a vocational institution and get a degree of, let us say, bachelor's, just by doing this stone cutting work at their home itself. So I think those are the sort of things that are thought of in the new education policy. Then then digital learning is, as I said, has to be a focus because it helps in many ways, and I will come to that. But digital learning improves the access and decreases the cost. But the important point is quality of digital education. I think that is the challenge. So how to make digital education of quality? And if we are able to do that, then I think it works well. Then the third thing is that people should learn to adopt, to embrace the change. So one of the changes that has happened, like for example, the change some time back was how to use your cell phone. So now everybody knows how to use the cell phone or smartphone or whatever. But what has come in is artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is data. Whether you are becoming doctor, nurse, anything, you need to have this data consciousness that, okay, this is how data works. So irrespective of whether it's an engineer, management, law, doctor, nurse, whatever, everybody needs to have this particular consciousness about artificial intelligence. And so these kind of changes have to be embraced. And that is what the NEP is talking about. And then, of course, to increase public funds Already, government is thinking of doubling the funds for the thing, and not necessarily for the central universities, but for the promotion of education as a whole. So not necessarily giving it to some university, but basically using it. And then finally, I think some of the important points was teaching education in regional language also, which is a big challenge as a part of the traditional knowledge parampara of Bharat, traditional knowledge parampara. So that is also another focus, to try to bring those old elements of Gurukul parampara into the mainstream education, something like Shanti Niketan. And unfortunately, I looked, and Shanti Niketan was a good model, and people thought it was like best model in the world. Nowadays, even in India, Shanti Niketan now ranks, I think, 97th university or something like that. So that shows this lack of interest in this kind of model, and I think this is the need to address this particular thing. And then finally, not only embracing the traditional parampara, but understanding what is happening in the modern education, what are those concepts of modern education, and trying to embrace them, which means internationalization of higher education, so that our students don't move into international arena. So I think what they have thought is, to implement this NEP 2020, they have thought of these 10 points, and they have requested all the universities to implement these 10 points in one way or other. So the first point is multidisciplinary and holistic education. That is the first point that they are recommending. I mean, these are like solutions to the problems that we are facing. These are the solutions suggested by NEP. And these points, if you can implement that, it means that you have implemented the new education policy. So number one is multidisciplinary and holistic education, and we will talk about it, what they are suggesting you can do. The second important thing is, of course, digital empowerment and online education. Third is focusing on skill development, and so focusing on employability. The fourth is undertaking research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, because we know that there are not enough jobs. So if we, produce so many students, we will be unable to provide them jobs, all of them. But some of them have to start their own employment and participate or become entrepreneurs. So that is why focus is on research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Then fifth point is capacity building for the teachers in other areas, so that quality education can be imparted. And therefore, it has recommended that they should have number of faculty development programs, so that the faculty can have this capacity building. Then also very important point is governance and autonomy. So this change has to come from the top. So from Modi ji, it percolates down in the administrative apparatus. Likewise, in the universities apparatus, it has to come from the chairman and down below. So that is the only way this thing will happen. So this need for change should be felt by everybody, and then they need to do certain things to implement these points in their own universities. All the directors, all the principals, deans, and others should all be on the same page, because they are the governance, and they should be able to implement this particular thing. Then finally, I think, how do you quantitate that you have actually achieved what you wanted? So you have achieved that quality or not? How do you get that? So that is the only way to do it, is go for accreditation, ranking, excellence. Although all these things are a bit imperfect, and I will agree with you that there are some imperfections with all these things, but still they are better than what is not getting accredited or not getting these quality things. It is at least better than not getting anything. So something is better than nothing. So I think these are important. Then also, as I said, the access to knowledge should be provided to each and every part or each and every spectra of the society, and there should be an inclusive education. Then ninth point is focus on Indian knowledge system and Indian languages, Bharat Parampara, so to say. And last is to understand the changes that are happening in the international educational system, the advances in pedagogy or advances in the educational thing that is happening in the West, and try to adopt it or adapt it to our own circumstance. So that is the last point that NEP has, the practical point that NEP has said we can implement. So coming the first, the multidisciplinary holistic education, I think the way they are suggesting is number one, of course, not only infrastructure development, more importantly, flexible or choice-based curriculum. So because that we already discussed, I think, because we did this choice-based credit system, so we discussed it, hopefully most were present, and we discussed what is the benefit of having a flexible curriculum. So that was one. Third thing that they have suggested is to support student to take up a minor subject, to take up a subject beyond their discipline. So one way is that you make it mandatory that everybody has to do, which may not be a very good system, because whenever you force something, it is not good. But make students, make teachers understand what is the value of taking another discipline besides your own major discipline. So I think that student support one has to provide, and also the faculty should understand. So faculty development is also a part of it. And finally, you can, these things are also already happening in West, in international education. So if you look at international education, you would already start doing this particular kind of approach. Then some practical things is like, if you don't have a certain infrastructure, so you might not have a innovation center or incubation center. So couple of 2-3 universities or education institutions can join together and form an incubation center which is shared by all the 2-3 institutions. Likewise, in your library, you might be very strong in health science, and the nearby university, MIT University, might be very strong in management or something. So if you have these shared facilities, so your student can go to the nearby university and get certain kind of thing, and their students can come and get certain kind of thing. So those shared facilities is one of the ideas that has come up. And then of course, integration of technology. Whatever new technology comes up, smart boards, lecture capture, those are the things that will help in this kind of education. So those facilities should be tried. So I think that again, even further practical points are that you have a large basket of choices available, like we have now, to the students you can offer. Moving away from STEM, which is science, technology, and management and engineering, to STEAM, which includes the art as well. So moving from STEM into STEAM kind of thing is important. Then, as we said, look at your course objectives, which should focus on communication, social and moral awareness, give certain value-added and skill-based courses. That is exactly what we are trying to do in the choice-based curriculum that we are planning. Then local and regional oriented courses should be integrated. For example, we have this problem of fluorosis, so we can have this discussion everywhere. We have this problem of gender inequity in Rajasthan, so we can address this particular problem, and this can become a regional sort of thing. And then of course, the idea is to have online courses which will improve access, which will decrease the cost. So we will deal with it because that is the second point of NEP, but anyway it is useful here. Then dual degrees, one degree you give here and you send for one more year outside, let us say Czechoslovakia, for example, what we are doing, and give them a dual degree. So those dual degree kind of things are also possible. So those are some of the ideas. Then multiple entry, multiple exit, and then creditizing everything, and like a bank, storing those credits in academic bank of credit. So we discussed this yesterday, maybe day before, but so ABC should be strengthened, and that is another part, so that whatever credits they gain, they can move out, go to some other university and use these credits to get a degree or diploma or whatever. Then international collaborations will help, and in this multidisciplinary approach, because you can have student exchange, you can have faculty exchange, you can have joint research programs, you can take in more foreign students come, you get an idea, and then obviously have some internationally diverse things in curriculum. So that is the thing. And then faculty development programs, just like what we are having, will at least make faculty aware of what are the new things that are happening and where the direction of education is moving. So that is also good, and then maybe we'll plan some collaborative workshops as well. The second point is digital empowerment and online education. And of course, we understand why online, because it gives a wider access to students. It is possible even in remote areas. It is beneficial for slow learners also, because it is not a one-time thing. You have this course, and whatever time is required for you, you can spend time on that particular video or that particular course, because it is in your own hand. You're not pushed by this, okay, this is 1 hour class, and when class is over, everybody goes home. Not like that. So that is why it is very beneficial for slow learners as well, and cost effective, we already discussed, and it also makes it choice based. So you might have a bunch of online courses available through which you can choose. If you don't have online courses, then you have very limited number of offline courses, so the choice is always limited. But if you have online courses, then you have unlimited choice. So that is, I think, another thing. And what UGC has done is, I think, important, because towards this end, what UGC has done is that it has developed this SWAYAM portal, and I think we will discuss it tomorrow, but they have developed a SWAYAM portal where they have taken help from different institutions. For example, I think from IIT Chennai, they have taken help to develop the engineering and technology courses, and from IIMs, they have developed the management courses, and different faculties they have taken and developed these online courses, which they have also creditized. So they have made it very good that this course is available for free, but if you want to take an exam, then you pay 1,000 rupees and you take the exam. And if you clear that particular exam, then you get a certificate and that much credit. So they have made it very flexible that way. So, and once you get those credits, like the credits you are getting in universities, you can add these credits to your academic bank of credit also. So I think these are some things which UGC has already done, and what they have said is that in some of the courses where more of theoretical teaching is there, 40% of the course can be covered by online courses. So example, for engineering, they say that because already they understand that there are deficiency of teachers. So if teachers are not available, then some teacher can supervise a related course, and 40% of the course or curriculum can be covered by these online courses. So that is another good thing. So what they have said is every university should have minimum number of online courses with a certain credit available. So they are going to make it mandatory, not only giving flexibility that you can take up to 40% courses, but they will make it mandatory that at least 10% of courses should be online. Obviously, it will happen very late in medicine and other things where it is more of 1:1 personal interaction, but for a certain thing, it will also start happening. So they will make it mandatory that 10% of courses should be online. So that is one. Then they will help or handhold universities. They will identify some universities where these courses are being run in a very effective manner and allow all the nearby universities or institutions to take help from this university. So it is an opportunity for us. If at this moment we develop this strong online content, or we get hold of this online content, then we can be hand holding all the nearby universities as well. So I think it's a good opportunity. And then we know that involving technology in these courses can also be there. In your classroom courses, you cannot get a lot of technology, but in these online courses, you can take virtual reality, gamification of the courses, because people learn most when they play games. So they learn most. So if you can put in education in a way that it becomes a game, then the learning is maximum. So gamification of knowledge is also one big area that is happening. And then of course, audio books and all those kind of things we know are there, and feedback, and of course the mentors should be very well versed with a digital platform. So that is what I'm saying. So the new skill that teachers have to learn is digital skill, because many would not be so much used to this particular skill, but in future this is the only skill that will matter. So for themselves also they have to learn this digital skill. Nobody can say now that I can't do the computer, somebody come and do the computer for me. Everybody will have to do it, and it will become mandatory, and those who don't do it will be pushed out of the system. So this is what is going to happen. And I think I've already discussed, so I'll just leave it. And the third important point is skill development, and this is more useful for employment versus just pure knowledge, and therefore take help of industry. So the new concept is, previously industry was shunned. You don't touch industry, there is a conflict of interest, industry should not come in. But now the thing is that you can get industry in, and you can become professor of practice. So there could be a person who's in the industry for 10 years, 20 years, and he has never done any academic class, never taken any class, but he has got a lot of experience. So you can get him in the system, and instead of offering professor of, let us say, technology, you can give him professor of practice. So universities can use these individuals and to improve employability of their students. So I think that is another very interesting area. And also these people can design new skill development training for the students, which will improve their employability, and and even they can train the faculty, local faculty also, and this will be very important, I think. So this is one idea of national education policy as well. And then of course faculty should undertake these skilling programs, and up to a certain standard, and and people who acquire skills, the faculty should be given a higher weightage also. So these are some of the things. And then obviously, if you develop these new skills, then they need to be evaluated also. No education is perfect, no learning is perfect unless it is evaluated. So there should be evaluation. So that's why we are having this feedback form. And that's why, because everything needs to be evaluated. There will be maybe something good, there may be a lot of things which will be bad. So unless you know what are the problems, you cannot solve. And also I feel that this evaluation should be anonymous, because once some name comes, then that evaluation is never anonymous. So it has to be anonymous, and so we need to have feedback from everybody, all the stakeholders, whether it is the students, whether it's alumni, whether it is the employers that take up our students, or whether it is other professional bodies. So all those areas we need to take feedback to know what better we can do, where we are going wrong, what things, how we can improve ourselves. So I think that is something very important, and it has to be anonymous. So if you look at the strengths in India currently regarding this area, skill development, we have got a demographic diversity, as I said, a demographic advantage at the moment. And we also have large number of educational institutions, more than 1,000 universities. And we have, at least from the top level, this feeling that the change is required. And therefore we have this NEP-2020. Student-teacher ratio, fortunately, is not that bad in India. It is okay. And the availability of funds is also not less. We are one of the growing economies, so funds is also available, but we need to tap it. And we have lot of traditional knowledge artisans around who are skilled in so many things, and those who have never got educated but they have a lot of skill sets. Those skill sets can be utilized, and we can always have this strength of Bharatiya Parampara, knowledge parampara, that can always be used. But the problem with the Indian thing is that we don't want to change. We want to stay put because we feel comfort in the structure. So we don't want to change. So I think that is one very important problem that we are facing, that students, teachers, and nobody wants to change. They are happy with whatever is going on, and this is the problem, because in future the things will change, and if you don't change, then you are in trouble. The second important thing is, as I said, very, very important, what has happened is short half-life for knowledge, short half-life for skills, short half-life for everything. So how to tackle this problem? So two ways. One is understand that this is not end of university. So this is now a continuous learning process. In medicine, we have got continuing medical education. We understand that medicine is changing completely over some period of time. But now it is not located only to medicine. It is happening now in every field. So continuing education will have to be there, whether they revisit university, whether they do it online, whatever. So that is number one, to tackle this problem. And the second way is to develop soft skills. And that is very important, because soft skills will allow the hard skills to develop when necessary. So this is the things. Opportunity, of course, is India has got maximum number of jobs now. The good thing is now Indians have got into this entrepreneurship bandwagon now, and many people are now are getting into it. So that is, you have a good pool of these kind of people. Government has also focused on it, and they are coming out with so many schemes. We see now every other day some BIRAC scheme, something comes up, and and as I said, opportunity is to get a professor of practice. So if you can take a person who's skilled and who is interested in basically sharing the skill, so these people can become professor of practice, and they can come inside the system and operate within the system. Some people can even be multiple exit, multiple entry, and experiential learning can even be given certification for their experience. So I think these are the opportunities that are available. But weakness is same thing, resisting change. Also, there is a feeling that a skill job, a vocational job, is not an aspirational job. If you become IIT, it is good. If you become ITI, not that good. Although it may be bachelor's for both, because just doing technology without engineering, not a good idea, the people feel. And that mindset has to change. And people need to understand that engineering and technology can switch from each other. So I think that is there. Then another thing is, infrastructure is not developed for these kind of things. Industry is not aligned into the system. So we need to get the industry. So I request all of you, if you have some industry, you can engage the industry in our university issues, then I think that will be a very good idea, and we will definitely support you. And so I think these are the things. Then coming to research, innovation, entrepreneurship, I think basic thing is that jobs are not available for everybody. So people will have to generate their own businesses, small businesses, whatever, and therefore they need to design think. If you have to develop a business, you have to design think, and research is one way to get into the process of design thinking. So that is why importance of research and identification of the research problem, then writing the methodology, aims, objectives, all these things makes one to think design. And that is the thing. And then running the whole thing, looking at the problems that somebody is facing with that particular research project, and then finally getting to the publication and getting quality of publication is the output. So once person does all those things, then he develops this design thinking idea, and that helps later on. And of course, government is helping by supporting the collaborations. Now UGC and there is something called Indian Association of Universities. They have identified many universities worldwide who are willing to collaborate with Indian universities. So government as an institution is willing to help institutions. If they want to collaborate with some university, they don't have any idea which university to collaborate, they can go to Indian Association of Universities, and they will help you find the person with whom you can collaborate. And so I think at the regulatory level also these things are happening. More and more funds are coming, and what is required is to tap more funds from industry by making them understand that if they invest here, they will be first people to get a new product. So that way industry can get interested and we can get those people here and we can have different source of funding. So getting funding is one of the most important things. If you go to Western University and if you apply for a job, what they will ask is, what is your H index? Means what is the quality of publication you have done? If you can show a quality of publication, means that you can design things, that you can design a project, you can write the project, you can run the project, and you can get the outcome. So they already know that you can do something for the university. Number two, they will ask how many funds you can generate. So whether you can generate funds from government, whether you can generate funds from NGOs, whether you can generate funds from industry. I think those are the two criteria they look at if you want to get employment in international. So internationalization is understanding that this is future of education also. So that is why you have to do these kind of things. Then capacity building, I think we already discussed. Programs like this and better programs than this, I think will help in capacity building, and we will encourage all the teachers, Dr. Saxena, Dr. Rama Madam, and all people who are leaders, and I see some other leaders also, to do these faculty development programs, whatever interests them, and we will support them, and they can do these programs which they can impart, a perspective. Nobody can teach anybody now, but you can offer a different perspective to the same thing. So people can have a different view of certain things, and that view can be discussed with everybody, and so people can have a different view and they get enrichment of the whole view. So I think that is important, and government is also doing a lot of things, and appraisal form is one of the ways of capacity building, because it forces you to go for these kind of things. And feedback, as I said, is very important from students or people, stakeholders who have at least 75% attendance, and then of course you have to take remedial action also. Then coming to governance and autonomy, of course we need to have very clear vision, we need to have very clear mission, we need to have very clear strategic plan, and then we need to very properly allocate funds as well as generate funds. So these are the points which are there in governance and autonomy, and then the governance should be focused on capacity building in the university, and actually these are all the things that are also looked for in accreditation, whether it is NIRF, NAC, QS, NBA, all these are looking at how much capacity building is happening for the teachers. And then there are certain statutory bodies and improving functioning of those bodies. For example, ethics cell is one statutory body. There are others also, anti-ragging committee, and so these things have to be done very properly, not in a ham-handed manner, and that shows the strength of any educational institution. I think government is working towards strengthening this governance thing. Then, as I said, we are going for NAC accreditation, we are going for NIRF, and this is the reason, because first of all, it lets us know where our weakness lies. Once we go for these kind of things, we at least understand what is required from us. Then we see where we are at the moment, we identify the problem, and then we start thinking of how we are going to fix this problem. And we then get the thing. So the just mere going for accreditation or ranking actually, boosts the quality of education in any institution to a great extent. So I think that is very important. And I think I've already spent some time, so I'll just quickly move forward. Then the other thing is that is each and every segment of society getting this benefit of education. So that is again very important. So we need to create the opportunities, we need to communicate these opportunities. I think problem what I've seen is that opportunities exist, but nobody tells those people that this opportunity is available and you can come and join in here like this. So that is communicating, so that ultimately something happens. So I think this is important. Creating is of course important, and government is doing a lot of things, especially for socially and economically disadvantaged groups, SEDGs. There are a lot of their things. They have a flexible admission criteria. Their age limit is flexible. They have an inclusive curriculum, including easy evaluation and assessment for them as well. And then they have a funding which is there. So they might get some scholarships, they might get different kind of fundings, and they might have some other extra classes or skilling opportunities, etc., that can be available for them. So these opportunities can be created, and more importantly, they should be communicated. So I think that is important. So it should be communicated, and so that there are, I think, this list of things that can be done, and I will not bore you with all those lists. But what I wanted to say was that there are a lot of ways you can enable these socially and economically disadvantaged groups by various activities. Then coming towards the last point, so it's now getting over, so please don't get worried. This Indian knowledge parampara or Indian knowledge system is something which is very important, and there is a school of thought which thinks that you can only learn properly in your local language. So I think that school is there. So what government is trying to do is to translate all these textbooks that are available in English into local languages in a digital format, because it might not be economic to produce those books because number of readers will be less. So what it is trying to do is encouraging all the teachers. So if some of you want to translate some book into Marwadi, so government will support you, and you can translate into Marwadi, you will get credit for it, you will get known for it, and the online version will be available of that textbook with your name. So this is one idea that is there. Government is promoting this idea that you can translate into local languages these textbooks, which will be available online. Also, there are a lot of things in Indian parampara that are there, and what government or what they want is that identify those areas in your own curriculum. It is possible that inside the curriculum those areas may be present. For example, yoga has come in and other things are coming in. So identify, map those areas in the curriculum and use some of these abilities because you might have experts in these areas, Indian knowledge parampara, who may not be in the regular education system. So you can make them professor of practice, get them into the system, and they can then enrich the students and make them aware that we were not like completely fools with our kind of education. We had certain strong points, and beyond politics, I think those points can be integrated in our modern curriculum. So I think that is the idea, and like for example, there are so many Indian shastras that we know, Jyotish, Bharat Ganit, or Vedic maths, we know already there are a lot of courses, and the schools, students are taught Vedic mathematics, Indian cosmology, Indian astronomy, Karmakand, Vastu, Sthapatya, Shilp Kala and Chitrakala. So I think those things can at least be part of art, or something, at least there can be a mention in that how Indian parampara was there in this particular area. So if you do music, maybe they can talk about it, or you do architecture, then there could be a discussion of Shilp Kala or something like that. And finally, I think internationalization, while embracing Indian ethos, we should not ignore what is happening all around the world and what changes are happening. So naturally, one way is to sign MOUs with all those things. Sir, we will give you this presentation. No need to, sort of take photos. We will give you the presentation. So they will be given to you on the faculty group. Then another thing is summer programs. I think if you know, West organizes a lot of summer programs where they allow international students to become part of the university for a small time. So we can also, if we can do summer programs when there are less students, so people can come in and they can participate, so we can have an international exchange during that time. So that is an idea. And then of course government is helping in funding also, but you can take funding from your alumni and corporate social responsibility areas. They can also fund these kind of things. You can have fellowship programs, and so I think a lot of things can happen. And I will just end here. Thank you so much for your kind attention. So any questions? I think online courses we'll probably do tomorrow because already long time spent. Because I thought maybe this was important. Sir, you want to say something?
Sir, you wrote that the new education policy is very good as far as my field is concerned. But Bar Council of India is not agree with so many points of the new education.
Yeah. So you are absolutely right. Same thing happens with NMC, Dental Council of India also. So that is what I said. If you remember, I told you that what government has decided is that they will, create only one body, and that will be higher education body, and all other bodies will report to that body. So that way, bar council role or NMC role or any regulatory body role will come down. So this is one of the proposals, and I discussed with you that this is what reform in regulatory bodies, single body only, instead of UGC, AICT, NMC, bar council, and so on. So that is going to happen, and that will solve your problem. Basically, we have discussed with UGC people, we have discussed with Ministry of Education people, and they feel two bodies are the most tough. And the number one is Bar Council, and number two is National Medical Council. So these are the two toughest bodies. They don't agree to anything, and they have their own thing. But if they don't change with time, they will change. So remember, if they don't change with time, these bodies will change, and that is going to happen. Wait for it. Yeah. Any other thing? Sir.
I just want to add to this also. Like we have seen the chief of students on here.
Sir.
Our students going to take from.
Yeah.
But otherwise, regarding the other countries, why will they interested in taking Indian students into their universities for training? So what is the reason that they are taking?
Sir, okay, sir. Yeah, please. If you finish, sir, you want to say something more? So there are two things. Why, that universities are in Canada are running because of Indian students. 50% money of the Canadian university comes from India. And likewise, a lot of money goes to US as well, and, UK and other places as well. So one is money, but more than that, what they are looking is what they are focused is a new point of view. So they are interested in giving their students or their teachers a new point of view, a new perspective. So the in thing is getting this new perspective. So for that, they want Indian students, because they know that they have a different kind of mental structure. So they want these people with this mental structure to interact with this is an Occidentalist structure interacting with Oriental structure. So once that happens, then it is a kind of multidisciplinary thing, because we have the strength. For example, for us, family values are very important. We really care for our parents, and we do all kind of things once they are not there, and we know that. But in West, nobody does anything. They might just put a flower there and that's it. And they are not bothered. After 18 years of age, they will throw out their sons and daughters from the house and never to come back. They might come for Christmas or, one or two of those kind of Thanksgiving or something, but they are not allowed to enter the home. So like a bird, they are treated. Like an animal, animal after 1 year will just throw out the kid, and they are out in open, and that's it. End of the story. But that is not happening with the Oriental ethos. So we have certain values, and there is certain value to that value. So they want to understand those values also. And there is certain value to their values as well. So for example, their value of hard work, which probably we don't have. Their value for time, which also we don't have. So those are the things which across pollination of cultures can give. So they are interested in that, that's why. So they do that, that's why.
To say about the question which was raised, one of the reasons they want Indian students is that what I've come to know, many of the US students, they don't want to do after their schooling or whatever they call it, middle school, to go in science. And many of the students are now running away from science. So and also the brains from India are very good, whatever we may say. So they look forward to having Indian students. And I think many of the major, areas are now headed by Indians. So that is one of the reasons I wanted to add. Another thing, a very interesting, presentation. Just want to add, everywhere we find these sustainable development goals, even in NIMS. And if you see education part, which is your SDG 4, if you actually see, it is totally interconnected. Whether you talk about entrepreneurship, whether you talk about collaboration, whether you talk about education, or what you call it as research. So I think it is totally interconnected, and if you actually achieve this goal properly, you will be able to achieve many other goals in future. So I think that is interconnectedness of many sustainable development goals, which is the target of United Nations. The target was to have to give a better kind of future to the humanity. So for 2030, this United Nations made this goal that our future generation should have a sustainable world. So for that, these 17 goals were made. And when we were going through different, slides, I could really feel that so many goals are interconnected, and it will be very useful whatever NIMS is trying to achieve when we talk about this interconnectedness. Another thing I want to say, though we are saying many things here, but unless the higher authorities really put it into practice, it will not have any meaning. So putting into practice is very important. We talk about incentives, but incentives should be given, please convey from my side, incentives should be given in time to the staff, to the students, so that we are motivated to work. Otherwise, they get demotivated. So I think that part should be conveyed, and then everyone feels motivated to work harder and to achieve whatever goals we may talk. And we need not worry about any accreditation. Once we are perfect, we will get it. So that's my view. Thank you.
A very good afternoon, one and all. I believe many of us are aware that the first document on new education policy was drafted in 2019, and it was called NEP-2019. It was very well taken by the institutions, and when they went through it, there were a lot of discussion, and immediately government has taken it back, and then they modified it. If I remember correctly, that was the year when the election was contested. So they took it back, and then whatever we have right now, it is very well drafted, well modified, and all the lacunas, deficiencies, and the errors committed in the earlier document was rectified drastically. So, as a whole, this document, NEP 2020, is well articulated. Moreover, it is complete in all sense, and it is a very well-defined roadmap, as what Honorable Vice-Chancellor has said it, the 2047, by which we are looking at, that it will be implemented fully. I believe that the academicians, the community, student community as a whole will be benefited, and we have to take care, because if you look at the new features incorporated into it, as what is very important is multiple entry, multiple exit, and where the autonomy is also given to the higher education institutions to define. While we are discussing defining these criteria, we should be very careful And we should take into account that every student will be benefited, every student will be educated in such a manner that during the transition and after the transition, he or she will not lose anything. So ultimately, if you look at the objective of this new education policy as a whole, is to take care the intelligentsia of each and every individual. It is not a look-up table kind of thing. An autonomy is given to learner. That's what is very important. So while we are deliberating any aspect, any horizon, any dimension of the new education policy, we should take care of that it should go in a very well, in a positive direction. Every education policy has its own strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, is what the SWOT analysis. I personally feel that this document is a universal document because, as what Sir has said, that Bar Council of India is not agreeing to many of the articles of this new education policy. Because as I went through this document, as I read it, what I found, it's a universal document which you can mold according to your own council's guideline. There's no binding on it that you have to follow. No, you are the best person. But the Moola mantra, the gist of this is that we should be very careful while designing the curriculum or the program. We have to take care of the learner's interest, learner's level of IQ or intelligentsia, and we should honor it. So many terms are here, have been coined in the recent past, particularly in academia. CBCS, choice-based credit system. And there is another term coined, a slow learner. We will never say the student is weak, no. Nobody is weak, one. Maybe a slow learner. So when you are talking of slow learner, take care of it. Why should we assign 20 credits in a semester? If he or she is not capable to go along with 20 credits in a semester, we should allow him to take 10 credits. And gradually, if he or she picks it up, at the later stage, he or she can take more credits. So that's what is the basic philosophy of this new education policy, that we have to design the curriculum, the structure, the program. We can design a program also. Universities right now in the existing system is a BA. It's okay. But if you look at US, they say it BS. We say BA, BCom, BBA, BSc. We say BS, MS. Whether you are doing MS in surgery or MS in communication system, it hardly matters. So what I mean to say, that you can design a curriculum or a structure or any program, हमेशा आपके दिमाग में छात्र का हित ध्यान में रखना होगा और उसका जो IQ लेवल है उसके हिसाब से आपको सुविधाएं मुहैया करानी है. I think this is the gist of new education policy. That's what I understood by now. Thank you very much for the opportunity provided.
So thank you, sir. I think also I will thank you for, telling us that why we are here. We are here because we are teachers. So we have certain responsibilities. And, we have certain rights as well, but let us not mix them. We are here we are talking about our responsibilities, and the students depend on it. Maybe we are not getting any pay. I mean, I'm not saying you are not getting pay, but maybe you don't receive one pay or something. But that is there to, address at a suitable forum. This forum is for education, and we need to talk about, how we can, if at all, contribute towards improving education for our students. Our prime responsibility is with the students, and I think that is the main thing. So we need to, fulfill the reason we are here. I think that is the most important thing. So thank you so much, sir, for your kind thing. And I mean, I will ask anybody. I don't know all the people. There must be some very profound educationists. So anybody wants to say something, please come over and speak. And I think, this is the way we will learn from each other. But what I would say is just, small petty problems we can keep aside and basically talk about how we can address the bigger question, our reason for being here. I think that is the main thing. Anybody? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, sir, for delivering such a wonderful and insightful speech. I don't have anything else to say than to add that as far as education is concerned, we as faculty, everybody, should be given a chance at central level, I mean at this forum, to deliver one lecture at least per semester. That way, you will not, the authorities in charge will not have problem in identifying the lacunas or the strong points within a faculty, and on the part of the faculty, they will feel a little bit more important as they are being given a chance on a central platform. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I agree with him, and I'm totally in line with it. So what I will request is that if anybody has some creative idea of doing a faculty, development is one faculty interaction program, then please you can send your things, and then we can have a kind of committee which looks into it, and then we can plan these activities depending on when people are free. Actually, this part of the year everybody is free because there are no students, so that way it was easy to do, but we will find some ways. So anybody who wants to do something, who thinks can contribute creatively to the academic part, I will focus on the academic part. There will be so many other things also, I'm sure, and with everybody, but let us just focus on the academic part, and anybody who wants this forum we will be happy to have the discussion on. So that is one. Sir, you wanted to say something? Yeah, please.
सबसे पहले तो मैं आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूँगा माननीय कुलपति महोदय का कि यहाँ आने का अवसर दिया। एक जो बिंदु उठा है कि BCI की या दूसरी चीज़ें हैं एजेंसीज, वो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के बारे में उनके कुछ ऑब्जेक्शंस हैं। मैं थोड़ा हिस्ट्री में जाना चाहूँगा और ये आइडिया कब से शुरू हुआ वहाँ मैं आपको ले चलता हूँ। आपातकाल जब इस देश के अंदर लगा और नेता जो लोग थे बिल्कुल निरंकुश हो गए और बड़े बड़े इंटेलिजेंस वाले लोग जेल के अंदर थे, उस समय आचार्य कुल की संकल्पना विनोबा भावे ने अपने आश्रम में दी। रज्जू भैया उसको कोऑर्डिनेट कर रहे थे, जो इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर थे फिजिक्स के, DD पंत जो फिजिक्स के प्रोफेसर और वाइस चांसलर थे नैनीताल यूनिवर्सिटी के, वो ऐसे कई और वाइस चांसलर, ये सारे मिलकर के उनके आश्रम में पहुंचे और वहाँ पर एक आचार्य कुल की संकल्पना तय की गई और उसमें तय किया गया कि आखिर देश की सारी सब चीज़ों को और इन व्यवस्थाओं को कौन चलाएगा। ये नेता ही चलाएंगे या बड़े बड़े शिक्षाविदों के हाथ में रहेगी। तब फिर ये संकल्पना विनोबा भावे ने दी। देख सकते हैं हम उस पर नेट वगैरह पर भी जाके, उसी में से मैंने पढ़ा हुआ है कि अखिल भारतीय स्तर पर एक आचार्य संकुल हो और वह सारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था को अपने हाथों में ले, और शिक्षा व्यवस्था के अलावा भी बाकी सारी व्यवस्थाएं उसके गाइडेंस में चलें। और वो वहाँ से ऊपर के लेकर के चलते हैं कि कंट्रोल कौन करेगा, तो आचार्य कुल करेगा। फिर स्टेट पे आ जाएंगे तो स्टेट का आचार्य कुल होगा, माने टैलेंटेड लोगों का लोग, प्रोफेसर्स का ग्रुप। वो परमानेंट एजेंसी होगी, कुछ उसमें चयनित लोग होंगे और कुछ लोग नॉमिनेटेड, जैसे इलेक्शन कमीशन में होते हैं, बाकी में होते हैं। इस तरीके से लोग आएंगे और वो परमानेंट रहेगी। तो उसके कारण से सरकारें आएंगी या जाएंगी, लेकिन वो स्थिर रहेगा तो हमेशा दिशा निर्देश वो देता रहेगा। और उसके बाद वो जाते जाते वो कहते हैं कि एक गांव भी अगर होगा, छोटा सा गांव, ढाणी भी अगर होगी, तो ढाणी का भी आचार्य कुल होगा, और इस ढाणी का आचार्य कुल वहां जाकर के नेशनल आचार्य कुल से जुड़ा हुआ होगा। और जुड़े हुए कुल के कारण से जो आज चल रहा है, कई बार प्रश्न उठता है ना कि पार्लियामेंट शिक्षा को ठीक करेगी। प्रश्न सर दूसरा ये उठता है कि पार्लियामेंट शिक्षा ठीक करेगी कि शिक्षा पार्लियामेंट को ठीक करेगी? यानी नेता हमको ठीक करेंगे कि शिक्षक एज ए टीचर हम नेताओं को ठीक करेंगे? कौन कंट्रोल करेगा? और ये उसमें से ये जो विनोबा भावे का जो चिंतन था बहुत बड़े स्तर पर, उससे पहले ये था कि इस देश के अंदर कभी भी शिक्षा राजनेताओं के हाथ में ही नहीं रही, कभी भी नहीं रही। पूरी इतिहास पढ़ने के आधार पर कह रहा हूं, अध्ययन आधार पर कह रहा हूं, शोध के आधार पर कह रहा हूं। और यहां तक कि मुगल काल आया तो अकबर के भी आप देखते हैं 9 रत्न है, लेकिन कोई शिक्षा रत्न नहीं है। आप चले जाइए हिस्ट्री में, अंग्रेजों के आने से पहले यहाँ पे कोई भी शिक्षा मंत्री नहीं है, शिक्षा मंत्रालय नहीं है। तो शिक्षा विश्वगुरु ऐसे ही बन गया था क्या? शिक्षकों के हाथों में थी, आचार्यों के हाथों में थी। और हम आज भी कहते हैं कि आचार्यों को ऑटोनॉमी चाहिए, स्वायत्तता चाहिए, उनको स्वाभिमान दो, उनको छूट दो, उनको चिंतन करने दो। मुझे क्या कराना है? मेरी एकेडमी है, प्लेटो की एकेडमी थी, अरिस्टोटल की एकेडमी थी, अशोक शर्मा की एकेडमी है। अशोक शर्मा किस किस चीज का विशेषज्ञ है और वो क्या शोध कर रहा है, उसकी शोध विधा क्या है, उसकी शिक्षण तकनीकी क्या है, वो क्या पढ़ाना चाहता है, किसको पढ़ाना चाहता है, आप तय करेंगे कि मैं कब पढ़ाऊं। आप तय करेंगे कि मेरा क्वेश्चन इवैल्यूएशन का पैटर्न कौन हो। ये सारी चीजें आप तय करने वाले कौन है? जो इतना स्वच्छंद रूप से चिंतन करता है, उसमें से विज्ञान वेत्ता पैदा होते हैं, उसमें रसायन विज्ञान वेत्ता पैदा होते हैं, उसमें आयुर्वेदाचार्य पैदा होते हैं, उनकी अपनी अकेडमी होती है, उनकी पूरी ऑटोनॉमी होती है। किसको पढ़ाएंगे, कब देंगे, कौन सी डिग्री देंगे, क्या नहीं देंगे, क्या करेंगे, ये सारी चीजें जो कैप्चर कर ली गई हैं, उसके कारण से ये परेशानियां आ रही हैं। अल्टीमेटली ये बात बहुत पहले से चल रही थी कि एक शिक्षा आयोग बनना चाहिए बड़े आधार पर। अल्टीमेटली आप देखेंगे आने वाले वर्षों में बड़ा शिक्षा आयोग बनेगा, बाकी ये चीजें ध्वस्त हो जाएंगी और बड़े शिक्षा आयोग के अंदर स्टेट में आएगा और उसी के द्वारा कंट्रोल ही नीचे रहेगी। और ये आना भी चाहिए, और अध्यापकों को जरा उनका स्वाभिमान बना रहना चाहिए। परिस्थिति विश्वविद्यालय में भी कभी ऐसे पैदा ना हो कि उनको अपने स्वाभिमान से कंप्रोमाइज करना पड़े। ऐसी स्थिति में चाहूंगा कि माननीय कुलपति महोदय यहाँ पे भी पैदा करें। धन्यवाद।
Very interesting, point of view, and all I have to say is कि actually, why they have this is for standardization of education. So while there may be very profound thinkers who are part of educationists, there are some who are pretty little weak on these areas. So for the sake of standardization, I think those kind of things are required, and if we evolve into a stage where we reach this level, we may not require it. So thank you, but that was very interesting, and thank you for your kind sort of discussion. I think time is less because people have to go, and so what I will request is that if somebody has anything to say, I will just stop here. But tomorrow, I think we will have this particular opportunity. So please, if you have something to say in academic or educational area, I mean, we will be very happy to listen. And I request that you can let us know who wants to speak, and we will give those opportunities. Today, I think time is less because already people are going. So thank you so much. Have a good evening.